Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna be working on the R32 Skyline. I'm gonna be putting some wheel studs on the car. This is the first time I ever replaced wheel studs on the Skyline, and I really wasn't sure how the backside was gonna work because of how the e-brake is set up. I looked online and I really didn't find any good videos on the backside. I did find one really good write-up, which I'll link to down below in case you're interested in that. The write-up made it pretty clear that the front end was not gonna be an issue. In fact, I already got that done. For the back end though, my initial plan was I wanted to install extended wheel studs, and based off of that I was going to have to remove the whole hub assembly, and that's not something I wanted to do, but I was able to figure out how to do it without removing everything. So I figured I'd make a quick video and hopefully this is helpful to someone else. Of course, you're going to need to make sure that the car is supported up in the air. So I have my jack there, and I also have jack stand supporting it right underneath the subframe. And then in terms of the other tools, there's not too much. So a 17 mil wrench to loosen up the brake caliper, a flathead, and then you could use washers or you could use these cheap little wheel stud installer tools. And then I have a sacrificial lug nut and the key that's associated with it. Of course, you're also going to need your wheel stud. Initially, my plan was to run these on the back side, but they don't actually fit. They don't fit because the knurling on them is actually too thick. I did double check part numbers to make sure I bought the correct extended wheel studs for the backside of the car, and the part numbers matched up. So I'm not exactly sure why these ones won't fit. So what I did was I ran down to the store and I got some wheel studs for an S chassis. There's actually the part number in case you need that, and they fit the backside of the R32 Skyline. To get started on the process, we will have to remove the brake caliper. There is a 17 mil bolt right there, and then at the bottom end right there, you have another 17 mil bolt as well. Caliper can then just get slid back here onto the lower control arm. The brake rotor is stuck on, but I should be able to get it out by just using these screws. We are almost ready to start taking off the wheel studs. There's just one last thing we have to do. Just to make a little bit more room, we're gonna disconnect the rear braking pad for the e-brake right here. And you don't have to disassemble the full thing. All you'll do is undo this spring right here. And then if we come down here, we'll undo this locking pin. That's gonna allow us to swing this off to the side. Everything else will remain connected, but we'll have the room to easily knock these wheel studs out of the way. Up next is hammering out the wheel studs. So this just takes a hammer and a little bit of elbow grease to get it on out. And it's out. Off camera, I went ahead and got the rest of the wheel studs off the car. Now we're at the point where we can start putting in the new wheel studs. Even though I'm gonna use the OEM ones, I will show you how I finagled these extended wheel studs in, just in case some of you happen to be putting in extended wheel studs. This is, I believe, 20 millimeters longer than like the OEM replacement one, so that is something to take into account. So to get this extended wheel stud in, what I'm gonna do is pull this back, put it in at an angle like this. I very roughly have it lined up with the hole, and then I'll turn the wheel and it'll be straight on, just like that. And of course, since I won't be running this, I'm gonna have to take it out. And to do that, it's pretty much the exact opposite. So I push it back as far as I can. So then I turn this, and that gives me the room I need to pull out the extended wheel stud. This is gonna be a lot easier just to push into place. I'm gonna do the same thing, kind of push back a little bit, and it just slips in and boom. To pull the studs through, I'm just gonna use this wheel stud installer tool. It's pretty much just a bearing with a face that the lug nut can sit on. Makes it super easy to install these. If I was putting on the extended wheel studs, I would need to use a spacer, but not the case in this situation. And we are set. Off camera, I went ahead and got the rest of the wheel studs fully installed. At this point, it's just about putting the e-brake back together, and it's just the spring and the little retaining pin. Probably one of the big things to know is that there is a little bracket right there, and you just want to make sure that it's lined up on both sides. So this side has a spring and this side does not, and the little brake shoe goes in between each side. So just make sure before attempting to put the spring or pin back into place, you line that bracket up. I went ahead and dropped the car back on the ground. Everything's done. Overall, the install did go pretty smooth, and it's a really easy thing to do. I do want to note though, if you have just like OEM replacements, there's probably a good chance that you could get away without messing with the brake pads, but it literally added an extra minute to the whole process. So I figured messing with them made a lot more sense to get everything back together easier. There is still a lot of work left to do on this Skyline. Pretty much over the next year or so, I'll be doing suspension refreshment and other modifications to get it ready to start doing some like track oriented stuff with it. So that's like installing a catch can, upgrading the radiator, oil cooler, just kind of your basic mods for that. So if you want to see more of the Skyline, definitely follow along, and thanks for watching.